Good evening, everybody. Welcome to night 3 of our Unchained Healing from Addiction week-long series. And I am, again, if perhaps this is your first time joining us live, my name is Benjamin, and I'm the associate pastor here at the Spartanburg Seventh-day Adventist Church. And I just want to welcome you to night 3. Hey, if you are someone who is struggling, someone who feels like, you're on your last legs, someone who feels like you've tried everything and you're just trying to find out what the next step could be for you, this is the place for you to be, because this week, these 10 days that we have together, we're talking about the hope that there is. Recovery is possible. So if you are someone, maybe you're looking for that next step, or maybe you're someone looking for more information, maybe to help a family member, a friend, and you want to understand, welcome. This is for you. I want to welcome you again. And hey, I'm proud of you for coming to night 3, whether this is live, you're watching with us, or if you are watching the recording. So just a few things, a few reminders before we get started with our guest tonight. So excited to dive more into her story and just the lessons that she's learned from her experience. I wanted to remind you, first of all, that if you have any questions during any part of the series tonight, the show tonight, please feel free to drop the question in the chat, or you can text a message that we will be showing on the screen, and you can message that. Any questions you have, we want to take the time to answer those questions. Maybe maybe you're thinking, I don't know if that really relates to tonight. Don't worry about it. Any questions are welcome. So please comment at any time tonight, and after the main message, we will be taking time to answer those questions. And another thing, if you would like to enter a drawing to win our speaker's book that he has written, and he's even signed it for you about his recovery journey, please just text Unchained to that same number on your screen to be entered in for that drawing. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Our interview for tonight, I'm so excited to be interviewing Amy and to learn more about her story. So let's get started. Hello, Amy.
Hello, Benjamin. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Wonderful. Can everyone in the chat just say hello, Amy? Can we welcome Amy tonight to our program? Thank you so much for that. And Amy, first of all, thank you again. I know I've mentioned this before, but thank you again for being here with us tonight, being willing to share your story with us. We really appreciate it. So my first question for you as we just get started with your story is, where did you grow up, and what was your home situation like as a child?
Okay. I grew up in Spartanburg, South Carolina, for the most part. For about 14 months, I did have to live in Tennessee because my father was very sick at the time. He got sick when I was 3 and passed away when I was 7. Mm-hmm. But we had a very close, loving family. Like, we supported each other. I grew up with the Bible in the family, with religion. At the same time, though, I was very sheltered in a sense. I look back and see that now. I was very sheltered. I didn't know what the world was like. All I knew what was, at our home and what was in church or the Kingdom Hall and stuff. But other than that, other than seeing my father get sick and literally just withering away in front of me, I had a really good childhood. I had parents that loved me and a brother that loved me, and we loved each other.
So coming from that background where sounds like you had some struggles, certainly during those times where your father was sick, and even though it sounds like you had a loving family, loving atmosphere, how did addiction where did that journey start for you?
That journey started in about my mid-20s. I had lost custody of my child at the time. And I was going through an ordeal that was very dark for me. It literally turned my world upside down. I contemplated suicide. I even looked up on ways to commit suicide. It was a very dark time. It lasted for about 3.5 years. I wasn't able to see my child. I felt I was alone. I was lost. I had no hope. Like everything I loved, my father had passed away. My brother was gone. Now my son is gone. It was, I had nothing. And I started to realize how drugs numbed that pain. And I enjoyed that pain being numb. I didn't like to hurt, of course. It started off, with simple stuff, light stuff, and then it just escalated as time went on.
So it was a gradual progression as a result of that loss that you had experienced. Is that
right?
Would that be fair?
Right.
So in your journey with struggling with drugs specifically, when was it? When did it seem to get the most intense for you?
After about 10 years of doing drugs, I would say, I ended up in ICU actually. I remember I was on an inversion table, I believe. I was being held because they couldn't get my blood pressure back up. I had, I was dying. That was going to be it. And I remember laying there thinking, this is where I'm going to die without my children, without anyone. And I was okay with it. It was kind of weird. I was okay with it. And you would have thought that would have sobered me up. But no, unfortunately, soon I was released from the hospital 2 days later, and I was back at it. And it was just, I couldn't hold down a job. I couldn't hold down a relationship. I couldn't get along with anybody. And obviously not having a job, I needed, some way to support my drug habit. So I turned to shoplifting. Over a 3.5 year period, I was in jail between Spartanburg County and Greenville County, like it's 2 years and 6 months. So that was the worst part of my life right there. That, and every time I went to jail, I remember thinking, I am so done with that life. I'm going to stay sober. I'm done. I was also very fortunate whenever I was there, I could be a worker, There was a deputy there that would talk to me. He always, hey kiddo, talk to, and I always vowed to be done. But within 24 hours of being released from jail, I was back on it.
Why do you think, reflecting on it years later, why do you think you kept going back?
Because it's all I knew. I didn't know another way. I didn't know what ways to try to stay sober. There was someone in my life during active addiction that he was an officer, actually narcotics. And first time I met him, he was just a complete jerk. Like he was going to put me in jail. But he didn't. But the second time I met him, he looked at me and he's like, this ain't you. What are you doing? And he always believed in me. And just him believing me, and then the officer at the jail, and then I was actually court ordered to the drug court program. A combination of all that, I think, is really has helped me now.
So originally you started going to drugs as a way of escaping that pain that you had experienced from feelings maybe of loss, abandonment, isolation, but then you ended up staying in that life for 10 years because that's kind of what your life had become at that point.
Right. It was my way of living. That was normal to me.
Yeah.
That was normal to me to get high and try to stay high.
So you mentioned that officer. You mentioned that he had something to do with that turnaround. So can you describe what that turnaround really looked like for you?
So I told you over a 3 year period I was in and out of jail, right? A lot. And I would always, every time I was there, I'd vow to stay sober. But this last time, he kept encouraging me. The last time I was in jail, I sat there for 8 months. I knew I was going to go to drug court. I just didn't know when. And I will never forget. It was about a month before I got released. One of the other girls in my room had just got released. And I was in a room by myself. And I remember hitting my knees and praying for God not to let me out of jail, but to not let me out until I was ready to not come back. And then talking to my friend, the officer, just him encouraged me, and hearing people out on the street ODing and dying. I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to be that statistic. I could do that. I wanted to beat this, and I knew I could. And then getting out and having drug court, and I was a resident at a Light Into My Path living home for women. That was my journey, having a support group and knowing how to face my feelings and my emotions on a healthy manner, healthy way.
What was it like for you going into that women's support group for the first time?
That was scary. It was so scary. Some of the girls I'd already knew, like either from the street or being in jail with them. But at the same time, we're all on a different path. We were on a different journey. We were heading for the same place, the same goal, hopefully. But it was scary. Like, I remember going to the meetings for the first time because, that was a requirement. You're walking into a room and you're like, you automatically think you're going to be judged and, you're the awfulest person. But I was in a home with women that they didn't know me, but they knew me. Like, they supported me and they cared. And I'm still close to the women I was in jail with. They were in my wedding. They were my bridesmaids in my wedding. And the lady, the director of the sober living homes, she was in my wedding. So it was scary at first, but it turned to be a very loving environment that really contributed to saving my life.
And how long were you in that program?
I was there for about 16 months, 14 to 16 months. Yeah.
So after that 16 months, when you finished the program, what did that next day feel like for you?
Scary. Free but scary. Because I had all these rules and stuff I had to follow. I had what's the word I'm looking for? Accountability. And then you step out and all you have is yourself. And anybody that knew me knew that my sobriety was foremost in my life. But it was still just really scary because you didn't have anybody. I could come home and I'm not going to get drug tested. I could do something, but I didn't want to. But the thought that I could. And so, but it was, I got through it and I stayed on track. And, but other than that, it was, I'm still here. I'm still sober.
Yes, absolutely. So in that post, going through the program and developing those relationships with your fellow recoveries, when was it for you that you really felt those chains break?
I would say about 8-10 months in living at the sober living house. I ain't gonna say I don't think about using, but it's not an urge now. It's more of a I remember. And I just we were going somewhere. I think we had stopped at a gas station and somebody had found some drugs right there on the ground, right there. And I remember that feeling of, I don't want that. I do not want that. And it just washed over me like, just get rid of it right away. And I'm freaking out. Just seeing it, I thought I was going to get it in my system just looking at it. That's how scared I was of it. But I felt free of it. Like it wasn't, the old me would have snatched that up and you wouldn't have saw me again probably. But I prayed about it and God, I got you. I'm right here. Here's my Holy Spirit. And it was just gone. That wave was gone.
Wow. So what role because you mentioned you have a belief in God just now. So what role did your spirituality, your belief in God play in your recovery?
Oh, it was the biggest role right there. The biggest part was God. I've always felt God was with me in my years of active addiction. He was in my shadows. Like I'm not going anywhere. Whenever you return to me, I'll return to you, as they say. And I always felt him there watching out on me. I remember when I was in Myrtle Beach, I was trying to get home. I was trying to get sober and trying to get home. Then I was in a hotel room, and once again, I hit my knees. And it's like I was having trouble getting a ride to the bus station so I could come home. And I remember hitting my knees, and the sky just kind of cleared up because it had been raining. And the sun came in, and I said, please do not let anything stop me. And sure enough, I was able to get to the bus stop that day. I was home, the next day. And unfortunately, I didn't stay sober that time, but I was home. And it started my journey to recovery to where I am now.
So just kind of as we're wrapping up and trying to understand this, 15 years of of your
Right.
life. Can you describe? You mentioned you had a loving, supportive family, and so I imagine that during this time, they were also affected. So, post recovery, what was that experience like? Being clean and maybe talking, reconnecting with them again.
It has been the best part. My son that I had mentioned that I lost custody of, that kind of started my downhill. I hadn't seen him. He's now 19. I hadn't seen him in about 16 years. I mean, 6 years. I'm sorry. First, it was from active addiction, and then it was fear, and then it was shame. And I found where he was working at, and me and my husband, we drove up there. That was another time God was involved, because I was fighting myself about going. And I got home from work that night, and as I was pulling in my driveway, I heard a voice just say, "Just go tomorrow. Just go." And we drove up there. I found him, and now I get to talk to him every day. Actually FaceTimed him before I came. He's supposed to be watching right now. But, I'm getting to rebuild that connection. And I have my two youngest. I get to, rebuild a connection with them. My mom trusts me. She gave me her credit card number the other day to, help her pay for something. So it's wonderful. Like, God has blessed me so much. People trust me now. I have a job that, they trust me. And they gave me a chance when, other places wouldn't. So, God has blessed me so much every day. I can't count as many blessings as He's given to me.
So just one last question for you as we wrap up. To someone who may be watching right now, what would you have to say to someone? Maybe they were where you were, in the middle of that 10-year struggle before they really decided. What words of advice would you have for them in this moment?
Reach out and talk to someone. Anyway, I don't care if it's just a Pizza Hut delivery guy. Call, because you're amazed. Just talking to someone and getting it out there, people will help. I see just so much love and just joy and beauty in the world. And it's amazing how much someone wants to help someone. So just reach out and talk to someone, get help, and you're not alone. We are recovering every day, or we're still trying to recover every day. You are not alone. Pray like you've never prayed before, and just reach out and talk to someone.
Well, thank you so much, Amy. If you appreciated Amy's story, can you say a thank you in the chat? Just thank Amy for being vulnerable with us tonight. And again, Amy, they'll have a chance to ask you some questions later on in the program. So again, we don't have all the answers, obviously, but this is an opportunity to ask someone with experience who's been in the trenches and has fought that fight. So just drop some questions for Amy and I down in the chat. We'd love to talk about them at the end of our program after our message. But with that said, tonight we are continuing our series with Richie and just his story and message of hope and healing. So I look forward to what he has to share with us tonight. And again, think of those questions, text the number at the screen, or drop a question in the chat. And once again, thank you so much, Amy, for coming and just sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Unchained, Hope and Healing from Addiction. So far in our journey, we've seen how life can possess you. All kinds of demons. People have debt problems, and they've got money problems and anger problems, and you name it. We all have problems. But the importance of getting honest about those problems is where the journey of recovery can begin. Once I got honest about my addiction, that's when I started being able to get into the solution and what I could do for that problem. So once we can finally admit the problem, that's when we're able to get into the solution. I've often heard the first 3 steps of the 12 steps summed up like this. I can't, right? That's the honesty part. That's the problem. I can't do it. I can't stop. He can. That's the hope. That's the belief that someone bigger than us can help us. And then the third step is, I think I'll let him. So I can't, he can, I think I'll let him. And once we start to identify and get honest about the problem, that's when we are able to gain some freedom. One day I was reading Mark's gospel and I ran into an interesting verse that just really jumped out at me. In Mark 6:5, it says that Jesus could do no mighty work there. It jumped out at me because Jesus was always doing mighty works and miracles. In fact, right before this, Jesus brings someone back from the dead. So the question is, and why it jumped out at me, is why could Jesus not do any mighty work here? Well, let's do a little bit of background. Matthew 13:58, it says, because of their unbelief. Friends, we've got to believe that our solution is bigger than our problem. We've got to believe that God is bigger, that God's power is bigger than our weakness, that His forgiveness is greater than anything that you may have done or any sin you may have committed. Hebrews 11:6 says, whoever would draw near to God has to believe that He exists and that He rewards those who seek Him. So we won't even come to a power greater than ourselves if we don't believe He can help us. And so that's where belief comes in. You can't have a breakthrough and live an unchanged life without belief. In Matthew 17:18-20, it says Jesus rebuked the demon and it came out of him. Right? We looked at that in the first session. The boy who was healed instantly. And then the disciples came. Jesus privately said, why could we not cast him out? And He said to them, because of your little faith, your little belief. Does the size of your hope match the size of your problem? Luke 18:25, it says, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God. And so what Jesus is doing here is He's comparing salvation to an impossibility. A camel can't go through the eye of a needle. It's going to take a miracle, basically, for a rich person to be saved. Now, often we assume Jesus is saying that it's extra hard for rich people to be saved. That is not what Jesus is saying. But during this time and place, people falsely believed that prosperity, that wealth was a sign of God's love and providence. And that's why when Jesus says it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to be saved, people are like, wait a second. You know, if it's impossible for good people, because they thought anybody who had prosperity and wealth, they were the good saved people. If it's impossible for good saved people, what hope is there for us? But then Jesus gets to the solution in verse 27. He says, what is impossible with us is possible with God. You know, I can't, He can. It's impossible for a drug addict to stop using. But you see, what is impossible for us is possible for God. It is impossible for some of us to stop going to that website, but what is impossible for us is possible for God. It is impossible to forgive someone who may have hurt you or abused you, but what is impossible for us is possible for God. I know we all know those people. For some people, it seems like to be nice. Come on, that's going to take a miracle. But hallelujah, what is impossible for us is possible for God. Our impossibilities are opportunities for God to show off His abilities. You have to believe that something can happen. You have to believe that there is someone, something stronger than you are that can restore you to life and to sanity. Mark 9:23, all things are possible for the one who believes. And so basically you got to have hope. You got to believe something can happen. According to Mark 6:1, the place where Jesus could do no mighty work, I find it interesting that it is His hometown. The people that were the closest to Christ had the hardest time believing in Christ. Jesus said a prophet is honored everywhere except in his own hometown and among his relatives and among his own family. Have you noticed the hardest miracles to believe in are the ones closest to home? You know, we can believe a stranger on TV can change, But with our own family, oh, no, they'll never change. They'll always be that way. Sometimes it's hard to have hope in a neighborhood that we've always lived in a dysfunctional home we grew up in. It's hard to believe in a miracle with the people we work with and the spouse maybe we live with. It's hard to believe in a miracle with the familiar because all we've ever seen is dysfunction. It can be hard to believe that something can happen differently. And often people think, well, yeah, but Jesus was different. I mean, he was the Son of God, right? No. Jesus, this is what's so cool about the gospel. This is one of the most beautiful, fundamental, important realities of the gospel, and that is Jesus was not exempt from his own rules. He was, is, and always will be one of us. So if you've ever been ostracized by your family, well, so was Jesus. Have you been rejected by friends, talked about, laughed about? So was Jesus. In John 1:11, it says, he came to his own and his own people did not receive him. You see, they couldn't believe that a miracle, the miracle of the Messiah, could show up in their town, in their time, in their family, and in their lives. And let's be real, often we don't believe a miracle can happen in our town, our family, and in our lives. Nathanael, one of the disciples, when he hears about Jesus, he makes this statement, he didn't believe anything good could come out of Nazareth. Think about that. The greatest good to ever live came from a place no one believed anything good could come out of. And what's interesting about that is, according to John 21:2, Nathanael, the guy who says, can anything good come out of Nazareth? That guy, he lived and was from Cana. Well, Cana was Nazareth's neighbor. So Nathanael can't believe anything good can come out of something so close. Maybe you've heard about God changing other people's life, but you don't believe he can change your life. You know what? Hey, maybe you've heard about God, but you don't even know if you believe in a God. That's okay. If you can just believe a little bit, if you can just open yourself up to this idea that, you know what, maybe there is someone stronger than me, outside of me and my insanity, that can restore me to a better way of life. Because friends, if you can believe it, I promise you God can do it. And if Jesus could come out of Nazareth, something good can come out of your bad situation. Something good can come out of your life. If Jesus could break through the history of Nazareth, Jesus can break through your family history too. Stop telling God what he can and cannot do. Stop telling him who he can and cannot save. Let me tell you, if God rescued me from opiate addiction and continually, daily, continues to change my life, then he can do it for you. John 7:5 says, not even Jesus' brothers believed in him. Those that were the closest to the miracle missed it the most. Mark 3:21 says that when his family heard it, they went out to seize him, for they were saying, this guy is out of his mind. Now, this word for seize means to control. And so Jesus' own family tried to come between him and his plan. Don't let anything come between you and God's plan for you. Don't let someone else's lack of belief get in your way. Don't let the chain of someone else's dysfunction hold you back. Mark 6:6 says Jesus kept on teaching. So even though this town, he could do no mighty work there, Jesus didn't get discouraged. He didn't give up. He just kept on teaching. Maybe you've tried to quit 1,000 times. Keep on trying. Maybe you tried to pray 1,000,000,000 times. Keep on praying. Keep on hoping. You may have gone to treatment 12 times already. Give it another try. If you want God to do a mighty work in your life, then you have to believe that God can do it. You got to believe that a miracle can actually happen. Regardless of how bad the situation may look, if you can believe it, there is a power that can set you free from the dysfunction or the addiction in your life. There's this neat story in the Bible where the father of an epileptic brings his son to Jesus. Mark 9:23-24, Jesus says to him, if you can believe, all things are possible to the one who believes. And in verse 24, immediately the father of the child cried out and said, I believe, help my unbelief. So he believed a little bit, but you know what? All he's ever known is his son who had a condition, who had an ailment, who had a struggle. All he knew was the problem. That's what he had only known. His son was born with this condition, and so that's all he knew. So he had a little belief, but he had a little bit more unbelief. And so he recognized, he got honest. You know what? I think I believe a little. Help my unbelief. If you just have enough belief to open yourself up to something new, there is a power that can restore you to sanity. I had recently been kicked out of a halfway house. This was towards the end of my addiction. I was living in my car. I had been in and out of treatment. I was on the verge of giving up. I couldn't go home for obvious reason. My wife couldn't trust me. My family couldn't trust me. Nobody could trust me. And I remember I was there living out of my car, and I had the opportunity to go to treatment. I had recently, the county sheriff had told me I had another warrant for my arrest, and that after Christmas I should turn myself in, because it was actually Christmas Eve, that I should probably turn myself in because after Christmas, because I was going to be going away for a little while. And so I had the opportunity of going to treatment, and I thought, well, go to jail, treatment, I think I'll go to treatment. And so I went to treatment, and I had been to treatment so many times before. I felt cursed. I felt like nothing was going to change. But I'll never forget it when I was in my car there, and I just felt completely spiritually, emotionally, mentally bankrupt. In the darkness, I heard God say, look, just believe. Just believe enough to try again. And I said, just like that father, I believe, but help my unbelief. And the little belief I had to give it another try was enough belief for the miracle to take place in my life. And that's when I started working that process of recovery, and my life began to be unchained from the addictions that I had dealt with for years. In 1 Corinthians 15:7, it says, after Jesus' resurrection, he appeared to James and then to all the apostles. Now, there are a number of people in the Bible named James, but most people agree that this is Jesus' brother, which gives me hope. Because the same person that John 7:5 says didn't believe in Jesus, now believes in Jesus. He begins his letter in James 1:1. He says, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ. So the same one who didn't believe in Jesus now believes in Jesus, and a miracle is taking place. He's unchained from his unbelief. According to the Jewish historian Josephus, in AD 62, a mob takes James, the brother of Jesus, to the top of the temple. They want him to renounce his belief, his faith, the same guy who used to not believe in Jesus, to give in, to give up. But James looks out, and it's recorded in history that he says, why do you ask me about the Son of Man? He dwells in heaven at the right hand of the mighty power, and he will come in the clouds of heaven. He did not renounce his belief. No longer is he chained by hopelessness and fear. He's no longer chained by closed-mindedness. Belief has opened a door to a new reality where once no mighty work could be done, now a miracle is taking place. Belief has broken through the paralyzing chain of James' unbelief. Hope has broken through hopelessness. And that's why James is the one who writes, but let me ask in faith without doubting, for the one who doubts is like the wave on the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. Stop putting limitations on God's power. Stop getting in the way of your miracle. Don't let doubt and unbelief stop you. What is impossible for you is possible for God. Look at James, the brother of Jesus. Man, if the kingdom of God could show up in his time, in his town, in his home, in his brother, then the kingdom of God can arrive in your time, in your town, in your home, and in your life.
Wow. Hey, that was a blessing to me. And hey, don't place, not getting in the way of your own miracle. There's something about that phrase that really just hits home for me. So thank you, Richie, for that inspirational message. And hey, I want to thank all of you who are commenting in the chat and just saying these phrases, that really stand out to you, because hey, there's a lot of powerful stuff in these messages. So glad to see you're getting stuff out of it. If you'd like to learn more about Richie's story and hey, enter in to win the book. We'll be handing one signed copy out each night. And again, to do that, just text Unchained to the number on your screen, and you can enter to be a winner for the drawing for one of the nights. So look forward to seeing which one of you will be the lucky winner for tonight. But in the meantime, there's been several wonderful questions that I've been seeing in the chat. So this time we'd like to just take the time to answer and discuss some of those questions. So, question number 1. This is from Shelby. Hey, Shelby, have you been able to mentor anyone since you've become sober? If so, how has that impacted your personal recovery?
Thank you, Miss Shelby. Yeah, actually, I have mentored several people. Some have been able to stay sober. Some I've lost contact with, but there are some that are doing phenomenal, and they help me, I think, more than I help them. They do, because just in, coming to me with their problems, their issues, or, just having someone to talk to, it kind of helps me, remember where I was at one point and where I'm at now. And it's just, it has helped me a great deal. I think that's probably one of my biggest joys is to be there for someone else and knowing that they can count on me if they need me.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's, just referring to Shelby's question, I think that's one of the beautiful things that you survived it. And now for you to be able to help someone else, that's just a powerful thing, at least for me to see.
It's a powerful thing to experience, because I look back and, I mean, all right, I could be dead, but by the grace of God, I'm here, and I'm just so grateful. We can't keep what we have unless we give it away.
Have you ever, before we go to our next question, one that just came to mind, have you ever, as you've mentored someone, have they ever been eerily similar to you, and you're just oh my goodness, I said that exactly? Can you describe that?
I have one friend. I was actually in jail with her. I think almost the exact same stories, in life, but completely different at the same time. It's just, it's hard to explain, to describe. It's like, I've done that. I went through that. That same thing happened to me. And it's just, it was an awe-inspiring feeling. But it also helped me to realize what all I went through to get where I'm at now. And, I just kind of share the same thing back with them, and it helps them to see a brighter future.
Offering that hope.
Yes, hope.
We have another question. What are you doing to maintain your recovery today?
Prayer and working my network. I have a great husband. We met in recovery. Which I don't, encourage everyone to do that. Just, we happen to meet each other in the rooms, and it's probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. But, just working my network, staying open and honest. Honesty is the number one. Because if any addict says they don't ever have thoughts of using, I have doubts with that. Just being honest with everything you say and do, and working the program. You may not always get to go to meetings like we did when I was at the sober living home, but I still try to work the program and work the steps, and just communicate, stay honest with mainly myself, and of course prayer is number one, of course, above all else.
As you go through those steps again, do you feel like you get more out of it each time?
Every time. Every time. I work on character defects. I work on forgiving those I have wronged. I still got a long list to go on all of it, but I'm going to keep on. I want to keep on, because it's a high you never get tired of. Is finding a fresher you, cleansing yourself.
Well, Thank you. Thank you. All right. The next question. What would you say to someone who feels like it's hopeless and that things can't get better?
That's a hard. It's not. I mean, I'd obviously want to say it's not hopeless, but if you're in that, point of despair, it's hard to, for someone just to say it's not hopeless and you snap out of it. So to say, feel your feelings. Don't let them become you. Don't let them own you. Feel them, but talk about them. And slowly you'll feel yourself coming out of that darkness. I believe. Just don't give up, because things, as long as you're breathing, you have hope. So.
There's this theme you've mentioned throughout tonight, talking to someone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That plays a huge part. I believe in things. Find that one person, if that's all you have, and just talk. Because you take away its power, you take away that darkness. That's how I kind of visualize it with myself. Like when I'm having these bad thoughts or I'm just negative, just talk about it. I might not make sense to whoever I'm talking about, but it's coming out, and it's getting out of my head.
Yeah. Let's look at another question. And again, if you have any questions, it's still not too late to drop them in the chat or whatnot, but send them soon, as we'll be wrapping up soon. So what would you say to your younger self, knowing what you know now?
I don't think I would tell my younger self not to do some of the things I've done, because I have a life now that I wouldn't want to give up for anything. But I would encourage my younger self just to stay strong. It will get better. You may not see it right now, but it will. I'm not proud of my past, but I don't regret it. I don't have shame, So I would just tell myself to stay strong and, keep moving forward, and it'll get better.
So it's kind of like, what Richie mentioned in his message tonight. God can turn something that was bad and turn it into something so good. And that,
Right.
Does that describe what he's done in your life?
Exactly. Only God knows whether the situation is good or bad. It could be something good on the forefront, but turn out to be something bad. And, just trust. Just have faith and trust God. And He will get you through it.
Any other questions? What finally made the difference in deciding to commit to the journey of recovery?
That is hard to say. It's funny. I made a comment one time that I believe everybody's recovery, we're all like combination locks. Every combination lock has its own combination, and it's different each time. And I believe mine was just at that time, that combination. I had the narcotics investigator that, encouraged me, and then the deputy up at the Spartanburg County, and then, the director of drug court. And then just that combination is just kind of things finally snapped into place. And when I sat in Spartanburg County for 8 months, and when I finally hit my knees, and I prayed and cried my eyes out, don't let me out until I'm ready to get out and not come back. And that's what finally snapped in me. I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired, as the cliche goes.
Yes. One more question. We have one more question. How can I encourage someone to seek help without coming off as judgmental?
Oh, that's hard. Okay. Just be honest. If the person knows you're coming from your heart, it's hard to come off not judgmental unless maybe you've experienced, addiction. Share your part. Share a little bit of your story with someone, I would think. Let them see the negative or the dark side of you, so that they feel that what they've done isn't so bad. There's someone else out there like me. And if you have to, get someone who's been through it. But I found that, if I share a little bit of what I have done, or a little bit of my life, a little bit of my story with someone, I realize sometimes, okay, well, I'm kind of like this person, so maybe they can help. So just be open and honest, and come from your heart, and share a little bit of yourself.
Yeah, kind of. You have to be the one kind of give and take.
Right, right. Like let your wall down a little bit,
Yeah.
and they'll be like, they feel in a safe area, a safe zone. So
Well, thank you again so much, Amy. I just feel like so much of what you've said has really, one, it's been inspirational to me, and I know that there's someone watching right now that, they've heard your story and the hope that you've experienced, and I firmly believe that you're helping someone else experience that
I hope so.
by just sharing your story. So, for tonight, again, this time we'll be announcing our book winner, the lucky one for the drawing. Again, if you want to register for another night, text the number, text Unchained, but drum roll. Robin Davis is the winner for tonight. So congratulations, Robin.
Congratulations, Robin.
And we'll be getting you a copy of this book, reaching out to you just to confirm details and how you would like it delivered to you. So congratulations again. And if you want to receive a copy of this book, again, enter the drawing. We have plenty more to give away. So once again, if you've been blessed by Amy's story tonight or by Richie's testimony and message, just say thank Amy again for being with us. Just put it in the comments. And again, like if any other questions come up over the course, you think of one later tonight, feel free to say that for tomorrow. We'll be more than happy to ask. And otherwise, I want to invite you to tomorrow night's program, same time, same place on YouTube or Facebook Live. And again, these are being archived, so you can share this. If someone you feel like tonight's message really would connect with someone that a family, friend, you can give them the link. They can watch this and join us later on. So once again, if you enjoy the content, like, subscribe, share it. Just as Amy mentioned, having a safe place to ask questions, to talk about these things, and in this case, maybe enjoy some anonymity as well, just by using the number. This is a safe place for everybody. So once again, thank you so much, all of you, for joining us tonight. Thank you, Amy, especially. For making time to be with us on this weekend, this Saturday evening. And I'll see the rest of you tomorrow night here at 7 p.m. I look forward to hearing the next message of hope and freedom that can be each of ours if we open up, work the program,
And talk to someone.
and talk to someone. Look forward to seeing you. See you then.
Thank you.